Hi, I'm Billy Eric, and I'm in Gelderland searching for Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
Nay, Billy Eric. We're not searching for Ulrich von Liechtenstein. And besides, he's a fictional movie character.
Yeah, she's right. However, there really was an Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
Truly, Sir Willem.
Yeah, I thought. Although he really hailed from present-day Austria and not Gelderland.
And where are we heading to, vandaag?
Well, we're in the Achterhoek section of Gelderland, in Zutphen.
Wait. Pan to me from the view.
Hand to you from the view. Got it.
Oh, excuse me. Not too tight. We want to be able to see the view.
Not too tight, sea view. Got it.
I'm Veronica Lewis, and today on Let's Go Dutch, we're in Zutphen.
I'm gonna travel the world. I'm gonna go where the Dutch have been, and I'm gonna share it with you, my friends. Let's go Dutch. Let's go Dutch. Let's go Dutch.
We'll explore the old ramparts of the medieval city and seek out the remnants of its Hanseatic past. We'll visit a tower named for a local musician.
So put on your clogs and let's go Dutch.
Just 67 miles southeast of Amsterdam, Zutphen sits at the confluence of the IJssel and Berkel rivers in the northeastern part of Gelderland Province.
You've seen A Knight's Tale, what, 100, 200 times? You probably thought Gelderland was some fictional place. Nay, since 1573, Gelderland has been a part of the Netherlands, and Zutphen is one of its oldest cities. Before we start our trek, a woord vandaag is in order. Our word of the day is Hansestad. Hansestad. It means Hanseatic city. And Zutphen was another Dutch town that belonged to the Hanseatic League.
The name Zutphen comes from Zoutveen, meaning South Peat, or peat bog. Peat is soil made of partially decayed moss and vegetable matter. It's found in wet conditions like bogs and fens. Cut out in blocks, when dried, the peat logs are used for fuel. Zutphen received a city charter around 1194, but the settlement goes back much further than that, the 4th century AD to be exact. Later on, the Hanseatic League left its mark on the city. As we wander around town, we'll be on the lookout for that unique style of the Hansestad age.
Like most medieval towns, Zutphen was fortified, and peppered around town are remnants of the original walls and towers. In fact, you'll encounter the first piece close to the train station. This was the Krauttoren, dating back to the 14th century. Kraut means gunpowder, so this is where it was stored, on the outskirts of town. Dangling the Berkel River is the Berkelpoort. Built in the 14th century, this is a huge piece of the medieval defensive wall. The Berkelpoort also served as a bridge over the river. The fortification wall from the Berkelpoort can easily be traced. Just across the road from the port is a piece of the wall. Then, continuing down Armenhage, we find more towers and the wall. This is the Spaniards Port and was built in 1537. It was originally called the Nieuwstadsport, the New City Gate. When the Spanish invaded in 1572, they entered the city through this gate, and it became known as the Spaniards Port ever since.
In addition to being known as a Hansestadt, Zutphen is also known as the Torenstad. That means Tower City because of the various towers defining Zutphen's skyline. One such tower is the Drachenapstoren. When the tower was built back in 1444, it was next to the Berkel River. There was a salt market here, and so the tower became known as the Salt Port.
The name Drachenap means dry cup. There's a story in there, and for that, we turn to Willem.
Back in 1555, a local trumpet player named Tonus van Grol moved into the tower. He'd play his trumpet to warn of danger. Now, Tonus always had some Geneva with him. However, his cup was always empty. Because of that, everyone thought Drachenap was always drunk.
And speaking of drunk, this is the Wijnhuis Toren, the Winehouse Tower. The tower was part of a tavern, but that was demolished in 1863. It was annexed by the city and served as the Stadthouse, and at some point the Wacht and the guardhouse.
The tavern may not be original, but the tower is. Construction was completed in 1544. Around 1641, famous bell makers, the Hemany brothers, moved to Zutphen. In 1644, they installed a carillon in the Wijnhuis Toren. This was the first carillon with tuned bells, something unheard of before, when they just clanked unmelodiously. The tower is open for tours, where knowledgeable guides will fill in all the fine details. With amazing views from the roof, your guide will point out stories of the medieval city below.
This is the Stadthouse and was built in the 15th century. It was renovated in 1716. They did some more work in 1729.
The renovation of 1716 saw the gate added to the entrance. With the Zutphen Wappen above the regal blue doors, the sides are adorned with the imagery of war. Whether in times of peace or even war, the Stadthouse was a popular place to get hitched forevermore. In fact, there's a wedding taking place right now. Let's have a peek. Next door to the Stadthouse is the Burgerzaal and was part of the Stadthouse. While these days it is used for municipal functions, it was at one point the Vleeshal, the meat market.
Billy Eric, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah. Being that this is called the Burgerzaal, which in English looks like it says Burgerzaal, and it was the old meat market, I don't want people thinking that this was some kind of ancient McDonald's or Burger King. Although, who knows, maybe you could get a burger here. But here's the real question. After the British took New Amsterdam in 1664 and renamed it New York, were people coming by the meat market asking for a New York strip?
Nahor.
And I don't suppose there was a pizza place next door with New York pizza.
Probably not. However, the Burgerzaal also functioned as the Wacht, a court, and a prison.
It's always a treat getting to see the inside as well as the outside of these old historical buildings. The Burgerzaal is no exception. The vaulted wooden beams of the ceiling of the Citizens' Hall. The windows adorned with the wapens of important families, the county of Zutphen and the province of Gelderland.
Not to be missed, especially since it dominates the Grovenhof, is Zutphen's Grote Kerk.
That means big church.
That seems strangely familiar.
That means big church.
Anyway, this is the Walburgis Kerk.
The church was built by an 11th century bishop of Utrecht. It was originally a collegiate church, but was taken over by the Protestants in 1591. A collegiate church is defined as a church with a chapter of canons. Building of the tower began in 1225. After much renovation and restoring, the church was finished around 1637. When you step inside, have a look at the ceiling vaults and the walls. These paintings are from the 15th century. Dating from the 14th century is the candle crown. It's known as a Jerusalem chandelier because it symbolized the final heavenly destination of Jerusalem. Treasures in the church include a copper baptismal font made in Mechelen in 1527. Mechelen is a prachtige stad in Flanders, Belgium. The pulpit is from the 17th century. It's hard not to miss the impressive organ pipes. Perhaps the biggest treasure of the Walburgis Kerk is the chain library. The church canons built the library in 1561. Known as a chain library, the books are chained to the tables to prevent theft. What is most fascinating about this library is they have 16th and 17th century manuscripts and rare books. This was an age before mass production when manuscripts were handwritten. Since this was a public library, they chained the books.
If you've seen our shows, then you'll most likely know that house would catch my eye. Guess what? It caught my eye. It's from 1549 and called Dat Bolwerk. Between 1532 and 1538, Duke Charles of Gelderland had a fortress here. Several years after it was demolished and the land sold, the new owner built this house. Because the Duke was hated in these parts, the house was sarcastically named Dat Bolwerk, that fortress. The attic of the house was used for the storage of grains. Wine was kept in the cellar. The house has a garden bounded by the medieval walls. Dat Bolwerk is now used for art and music events and even has 2 apartments you can stay in.
The building next door is from 1639 and was the Ruiterkortegaard, the equestrian guard.
It was built by Amand Hellenrot, an architect who left his mark all around Zutphen. Amand also built the Wijnhuistoren. His style is inspired by Hendrik de Keyser, the Golden Age architect of Amsterdam. The Stedelijk, or City Museum, should be on your list if you want to delve deep into the layers of Zutphen's history.
The Stedelijk is in the Hof van Hakeren, a city palace. Unfortunately, it's closed this month for renovations.
Known as the Shell Dome, it was built in 1697 by Baron van Raven van Hakeren. The dome is covered by shells brought back by sailors in the Dutch East and West India companies.
The Van Hakeren family was Zutphen nobility and the most powerful in the city. Gelderland was an independent duchy until 1549. Charles V added Gelderland to the Habsburg dynasty in the Low Countries. When Prince Maurits liberated the city from the Spanish in 1591, he had it annexed to the 7 united Dutch provinces. Zutphen benefited greatly as a member of the Hanseatic League, even earning the nickname de Rijkste, the richest. In the year 882, the Vikings attacked the settlement. The 80 Years' War also left its mark on the city, but the Netherlands emerged victorious, gaining independence from Spain in 1648. World War II was not kind to the Netherlands, and Zutphen suffered its share. The war left an indelible mark on the psyche of the country. Every May 5th, they celebrate Bevrijdingsdag, Liberation Day.
Zutphen still retains its medieval layout. As you wander around, you're likely to come across pretty hofjes. That translates to little courtyards. These hofjes are surrounded by almshouses set up by rich patrons and nobility. The Netherlands has a long history of the rich putting their wealth towards helping the poor, widows, orphans, and the old.
This Hofje is the Outerbornhof, created in 1320. It's the oldest in the city. The figures above the gate, which dates back to 1723, show that this was an old age home for men and women.
The Outerbornhof is named for Borro, a canon from the Walburgiskerk. He bought the land in 1320 and built a house. He later decreed his house would be used as an old age home, with the city of Zutphen as administrator.
Many of these peaceful courtyards are open to the public. Just remember to be respectful and not disturb the Hanseatic.
When the sun goes down, which in May feels like forever, it's time to explore the stad at night. Unlike Amsterdam, Zutphen is not crisscrossed by canals with lit-up bridges at night. You will, however, be immersed in the Hanseatic past. Night has a way of doing that. It hides the new and illuminates the old.
Here along a stretch of road called the Martinetsengal, we find another piece of the old wall. That road was part of the moat surrounding the fortified city.
The little turret is the Borganje-toren and was built in 1457. At the time, Gelderland was at war with Burgundy. In 1793, a Dutch philosopher named Johannes Martinet wrote a book in that tower. It's called The Catechism of Nature.
And that's where the Martinetsengal gets its name from.
Yeah, and that famous family from Zutphen, the Van Hekerens, they owned the tower in the 18th century and added the dome top.
While most of the streets in the medieval core are quite narrow, there is one stretch that is fairly wide. The name changes 3 times: Groenmarkt, Houtmarkt, and Zatmarkt. This curved street was a moat built after the Viking attack. It was filled in 400 years later, and the markets were established here. Groen, or green market, they would have sold produce and vegetables here. Hout, or wood market, may have had furniture and wooden items, or even building material. Zatmark means seed market. Perhaps they had grains and spices. To this day, the market is held here weekly. They say there's 2 things you can't avoid: death and taxes. Actually, people have been trying to avoid paying taxes ever since they were imposed on them. If you've seen the canal houses of Amsterdam, you're witnessing Golden Age tax evasion. Because they were taxed on the width of the property, the Dutch built tall, narrow houses. When Napoleon Bonaparte annexed the Netherlands, he introduced a tax on the number of windows and doors. It's common to see corner houses with bricked-up windows, thereby evading the tax.
Known as the Broederenkerk, this was a Dominican monastery built in the 14th century. The Dominicans acquired it from the widow of the Count of Gelders, who had died soon after starting an expensive vanity project. His cousin Floris was building the Ridderzaal in Den Haag, so he wanted to build one of his own. When he died, his wife said,
Ridderzaal, good riddance.
And she gave it to the Dominicans. I mentioned earlier about remnants of the medieval fortifications peppered around town. Here, we find another tower from the original walls. While it may seem like this is just sitting out here in the middle of a residential area, the Berkelpoort is just about 315 feet that way. Either this was a continuation of the walls connected to the Berkelpoort, or it was a piece of the second wall. Zutphen had not one, but two walls surrounding the city. Kind of gives you a sense of the times, eh?
This is a nice stretch here. Oh, that house says King Lear. I think Shakespeare would approve. The step gable next door is from 1680. And look at the two cute little houses, yeah?
Check out this house. It has 3 different styles of wall anchors. These were used to keep brick houses from bowing and collapsing. The Dutch used them extensively. I'll show them the gable on the left. You show them the Achterhoek.
Oh, goed.
There's 2 things on this street we want to show you. So you come with me, and Veronica's going to jump behind the camera. I wasn't watching. Did she jump? She jumped. First, there's this interesting gable. Notice the stained glass windows. This must have been the home of a wealthy merchant or a local official, maybe. You'll notice these little blue and white signs on the old facades, designating it as a national monument. Another clue someone important built this house.
The second thing we want to show you is the hopper on the facade. These carved heads were used at a time when not everybody was literate. The hopper typically marked the pharmacy. Indeed, the Achterhoek was once a pharmacy. Zutphen is more than a city with a rich past. It has layers stretching back to the Vikings, the Romans, and even a popular knight's tale. Well, that's all the time we have. I'm Veronica Lewis. Join us again next time on Let's Go Dutch as we explore more of Nederland and beyond. Tot ziens!